schools like Bloomington and to mark a new day for school districts and most importantly for school children across this state. So Governor, I look forward to seeing what you do this afternoon when you sign this into law. Now I'm going to turn it over to our Republican leader in the Illinois Senate, my colleague, Senator Bill Brady.
Good morning, and great to see you all. By the way, are there any band members? No band members? Well, if you see some, who's a band member?
Him right there, the blue shirt.
Hey, so my house backs up to the football field. And I want to say thank you to you and your fellow band members. You play beautiful music. We love it when you practice, so tell them all thanks, and we really appreciate it. So, Governor, it's great to have you here. Superintendent Riley, I have to applaud you. I've known you throughout your career, and now not only superintendent, but as the head of LUDA, Large Unit School Districts, has provided a great role in leadership in this entire process. It takes a collective group of people to get something this monumental done, including all of my colleagues, Representative Bennett, Representative Brady, Representative Butler. And as said earlier, there is no one who in the legislature has spent more time and worked harder to champion something that is so important to not only your future, but hopefully your children's future someday and your grandchildren's future someday. I was on WGN radio this morning talking about how important this is. This moves our state, I think, to the forefront of our nation when it comes to a plan to equitably, fairly, and bring about an adequate level of funding for education. And as much as everyone's put into this, there is no one who has championed this effort more than Governor Bruce Rauner. Before Governor Rauner became governor, he was an advocate and a leader on educational issues throughout this state and throughout this nation. And I will tell you, as I campaigned around the state with Governor Rauner when he was running for governor, I never once heard him speak without putting education at his highest priority. Other priorities like jobs and balancing budgets and things, but every time Governor Rauner spoke, and he and his wife have been the strongest advocates for education in this state, he put first and foremost education funding. For over 2 decades, the legislature and governors have tried to revolutionize in a positive way how we take care of education funding. Without this governor, we wouldn't have it today. And with that, no further ado, please help me by welcoming the gentleman who spearheaded revolutionary education funding for the students of the state of Illinois, Governor Bruce Rauner.
Thank you very much. Very excited to be here. I want this to be fun and informative. So you guys are government students, so we have some questions for you. We're going to do some questions with you guys, and we're going to do some questions with the media. Today is all about you. Today is all about the students across the state of Illinois. You guys are our future. Everything we do in public service is to create a better future for you, so you can be all you want to be in your lives in the coming years. Whether you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a mechanic, or a pilot, or a teacher, whatever you want to be, we want you to be able to do it in Illinois and have a wonderful career for yourselves and your families. The key to being able to do that is to make sure you get a wonderful education. And that's why we're here. We are achieving an historic event to get more resources, more support, more excellence for your classrooms, for your education, and to support your teachers. I personally believe, and I've believed this my whole life, there is no more important work, no more important profession in America, in the world, than that of being a teacher. Teaching is the key to a better life for everyone. And we are very blessed that we have wonderful teachers here in Bloomington, but across the state of Illinois. But we need to get them more resources. We need to get them more support. Why we're here is because for years, Illinois has really failed. We have failed as a people, failed as a state government. We have given historically the lowest percentage of any state government in America, the lowest percentage of our state budget for education, from the state to the local school districts. That means we overly have relied on local property taxes to fund our schools, and that has caused the largest disparity, the biggest gap between what low-income students receive to support their education and their teachers, and high-income students can support their teachers with. And it's not fair. It's not equitable. And that has denied the American dream to too many young people in the state of Illinois. And one of the reasons I ran for governor is to say education should be our #1 budget priority. Nothing more important than our teachers and our students. That should be what everything we do is about. And I said, from now on, in our budgeting, in our priorities, schools come first. Teachers and students are the #1 priority with our budgeting process. And that's what I asked for my first year as governor, got more money. Asked for more money second year, third year. And now, we said not only more resources, but let's make sure it's given in a more equitable fashion. So I asked the legislature to come together on a bipartisan basis. And I said, please design a new funding formula so we can allocate the money on a more equitable, fair basis. They worked hard, many of the leaders here. And actually, I want to give a shout out because two of the key people, this was done by the gentlemen who are here right now, but the two people stand out in my view for this bill. One is Jason Barrickman. He's been an advocate for education funding reform for years and years. Round of applause for Jason Barrickman. And another one is the gentleman immediately to my left. You know, getting difficult, complex legislation done is very challenging. It takes a lot of negotiation, a lot of compromise, a lot of creativity, a lot of proposing of new ideas and overcoming problems. And Leader Brady has done a phenomenal job. He deserves a round of applause for leading this whole. Well, we got the bill done. It took us almost 2 years of a bipartisan commission to negotiate and work, and we got this done. And it's a really big deal. This is historic for Illinois. Historic for you as our students, for your futures, and your brothers and your sisters, and other community members coming up in the school system, and it's historic for our teachers. We need in Illinois to do everything we can to help our teachers do their jobs to help you. Be the best in their professions, get them the resources, the supplies, the training, the support, and be able to support their families with a high-quality career with all the support they need. That's how we have wonderful education in the state of Illinois. This bill allows us to do this. This new bill not only closes the gap between what low-income schools get and high-income, but it also encourages more resources from the state in future years. So every year going forward, the state's going to step up and do more and more to support our schools. Because I'm personally committed as governor, I want the best schools in the world, not just in America. I want the best schools in the world here for all the young people in the state of Illinois. That's my personal goal, and I'm on a mission to try to do that. It takes time, change doesn't happen quickly, but this step today is a major progress to get this done. Now, I'm heading up, so I've been, I live in Springfield now, my wife and I and our little dog, Stella. But we've been touring around the state, visiting schools. That's one of my favorite things to do. But I'm going to drive up to Chicago now. We're going to sign the bill in Chicago. And Speaker Madigan and President Cullerton and some of the local mayors, the local school superintendents, we're going to be there. And we just did this in Litchfield, and we did it in Springfield. We're down in DuQuoin last night. We're traveling all around the state to celebrate, because this is a historic day for everyone across the state of Illinois, and this is a time to celebrate. And that's why I'm driving around the state. So it's great for me to be back here in Bloomington. I'm very excited. It's a great community, and you're very, very fortunate to be in such a wonderful high school here. Go Purple Raiders. Go Purple Raiders. So now with this, before I'm going to ask the press to ask me or ask all of us any questions that they have. But do you guys, as students, do you have any students have any questions that you'd like to ask about? I know you guys are government students, right? This is government actually working. Sometimes government doesn't work because it's challenging. Not everybody agrees. Reasonable people can reasonably disagree. But this, we came together, Democrats and Republicans, and it's a compromise bill. And this bill, you know what? This bill's not perfect. There's some things in there that, I don't really like. But everybody has some things in there that they probably would prefer to have done differently. But this is what compromise is. But the key is we got a new school funding formula to close the gap. We got more resources for teachers every year going forward as part of our plan. And we get rid of unfunded mandates. Does anybody know what's an unfunded mandate? You know what an unfunded mandate is? You'll hear a lot about that as you learn about education and you learn about government. That means when Springfield says, here's a regulation, we're going to force teachers to do this or a school to do that, but we're not going to pay for it. Only the local the families have to pay for it. And here's a new regulation, a new restriction. I personally believe we should get away from as many regulations and restrictions and mandates on our teachers as we can. Let our principals and our teachers teach the way they'd like to teach, get them the resources and the support, but then get out of the way and let schools run themselves, let the teachers and the principals work for you as they best see fit, without a lot of restrictions, a lot of regulations, and a lot of requirements. And this legislation also gets rid of restrictions and regulations. It's a big deal. More resources, less regulation, more equality. This bill is a great step in the right direction. Anybody have a question for us? Any students? Okay, how about the media? Any press? Do you guys have any questions? Anybody? Okay, I'm sorry, I can't
Governor,
see.
Governor, you keep saying everybody.
Oh, there's a student coming. Yeah, I didn't see the hand.
Are you going to the main cities like Springfield, like the big main cities?
Actually, I'm going to big cities and small towns. So I'm going all. So let's see. I was in Breeze, Illinois, yesterday afternoon. You know where Breeze is? Not many people know where Breeze is. I've actually been there 4 times as governor. So I was in Breeze, Illinois. I was in Litchfield, Illinois. You know where that is? I was in DuQuoin last night. You know where DuQuoin is? DuQuoin's down towards Carbondale. And one of my favorite things as governor, I travel. You know what? I either ride my motorcycle. I'm a Harley Davidson rider since I was 14. Or I ride in the truck with the troopers and I drive around the state. I visit schools, I visit small businesses, I visit community leaders. I speak at churches on Sunday morning, and one of my favorite parts of my work is to visit the people around Illinois and talk about what's going on. And we're traveling around the state now with this bill, going to some big cities and lots of small towns. Yes, sir.
Governor, the state is still in a huge financial mess. Where's this extra money going to come from that you keep wanting to send to the schools every year? We don't have it.
No, that's right. And great question. How do we do this? It's by stronger economic growth. You're asking a question about the budget. This is something for the students to all know. You know, we've been battling about the budget in Illinois for the last couple of years. Actually, we've been battling about the budget in Illinois for decades. We still don't have a balanced budget. We still are running a deficit, even though the General Assembly passed a big tax hike here recently. We have big financial trouble. So we got to solve that problem. But you know what? What we don't do is solve our financial problems by taking money away from schools. Our kids, our teachers deserve more resources, and we can find the money if we prioritize education first. So what are we going to do? We're going to cut the wasteful spending, get reforms on, for example, we have 7,000. This is an important thing for a government class. Do you guys know Illinois has more units of government than any state in America? We have 7,000 units of government in Illinois. The number 2 state, which is Texas, which is way bigger than us, they have 2,000 fewer units of government than us. And you know what? A unit of government, taxing, patronage, you know, cronyism, layers of bureaucracy, cost, pensions. We've got to get rid of that, consolidate that. There's billions of dollars we could save if we got rid of that level of inefficiency. Or procurement, the way we buy things in government. We're very inefficient when we buy things. We waste probably $500 million a year in wasteful purchasing power. And $500 million could go a long way towards funding our teachers and our education. There's a lot of money to be unlocked if we get the reforms. That's what we're going to continue.
Governor, how are you going to keep these students here in the state with the flight out of this state? Their parents are going to be leaving. They're going to be leaving. There's no jobs for them.
Exactly
How are you
right.
going to combat that?
That's the #1 priority. I ran for governor to do 2 things: have the best schools in the world in Illinois, and have a booming competitive economy with creating great careers. We have not been growing our economy in Illinois. This is important for you guys as government students to know. We have so many regulations on our businesses. Do you guys know we have twice as many regulations on our businesses in Illinois as the states around us do? Twice as many regulations on our businesses. And the regulations raise costs, it puts restrictions, make our businesses uncompetitive. And so what do the businesses do? They go over to Indiana, or they go down to Texas, or they go to Missouri, or they go to Tennessee, or they go to another country. We need to be competitive in our economy to grow great careers. And to your very good question about the budget, there's no way we can keep a balanced budget unless our economy is growing faster than our government spending. And you know what? For years in Illinois, our government spending has gone on a rocket ship, and our economy has been flat. We have the same number of jobs, roughly. I mean, I'm proud since I became governor, we've added 120,000 jobs. I've been working hard on that. But basically, we have roughly the same number of jobs we have in Illinois today that we had 17 years ago. Same number of jobs, but meanwhile, the government spending has gone through the roof. That's why we have deficits, and that's why we don't have the money to put into our schools.
Governor and everybody else, you guys have all said historic, historic, historic. Is that just a word today? Does this really mean something today?
Oh, well, so would you like to comment? I have an answer for that, but let's
It's historic. For 25 years, I remember back when I first started the General Assembly, Governor Eckert tried doing something, and it fell short. every governor since this time has tried to revolutionize funding for schools. By and large, it's been the city of Chicago that has shut down our ability to create fairer and equitable funding systems. Now, we care deeply about the students in the city of Chicago and the Chicago public school system. But about 4 years ago, Senate Republicans came up with evidence that we were not treating you fairly compared to other school students. This sets us on an absolute path that resources will follow students in a fair and equitable way. So I can tell you as a member of the General Assembly, for a number of governors, that this is historic and I think provoking the whole nation to follow our lead. Senator Bergman?
Sure, thanks. You know, Doug, I described it as historic, and I think that it is. When the education community looks at Illinois and Illinois schools from around the country, when those educators look at Illinois from all around the country, they point to the fact that Illinois is last in having, or first in having, the most inequitable school funding system in the country. That is a failing grade for our state and for our school systems. And think of the context of where we're at. You know, people are frustrated with their government. They're frustrated with the inability for Springfield to solve problems. Yet we've come together in a bipartisan manner. I don't think that our state would be able to do such a monumental thing if not for the bipartisan government that exists. We have a legislative branch that's controlled by Democrats. We have an executive branch, Bruce Rauner, Republican. And those two sides had to come together in a manner that represented fairly the 2 million students of this state. There's a lot of attention that's been placed on Chicago for good reason, right? There's a lot of political influence up there. There's a lot of students up there. That is the single largest school district in the entire state. And I thought it was important that all of you also had a voice in this debate that's gone on for years and quite frankly for too long. And so you got a voice in that through our divided government. And as a result, we changed the school funding formula in a manner that's not been done in 20 years. We put our state on a new trajectory, and hopefully we restore to some of our young people and some of our voters faith that we can operate and solve problems together in a bipartisan manner because you want us to do that and you need us to do that. So I think today is a great day for Illinois.
Governor, should we assume, given the private school scholarship tax credits in this bill, that school vouchers are next?
I don't think you can assume anything about the future. In this bill, we do many wonderful things. We do expand school choice for low-income families. I personally believe in more school choice for low-income families. We get rid of mandates. We allow for local residents where their schools are more than adequately funded to be able to manage their own property tax levies through a voter referendum process, more local control. That's a really big deal and a revolutionary change. And we have many school districts around the state that are suffering from diversion of resources through TIF districts, tax increment finance districts. That's basically where real estate property taxes are taken away from the value of a building and put into a special fund, and they don't, most of the time they don't go to schools. And that means money's taken away from our teachers in many communities. The city of Chicago has used TIF districts to take money away from their schools 5 times as much as the rest of the state has. And so I advocated for changing that. The reason it's unfair is it not only takes money away from the students and the teachers in Chicago with these $6 billion in TIF value that's been taken away, $6 billion. But the rest of the state, Bloomington and Springfield and Rockford and Decatur and Danville and Carbondale, taxpayers, the rest of the state subsidizes the money loss of the TIF districts to Chicago. And that takes away hundreds of millions of dollars from the rest of the state and to send it to Chicago to subsidize their TIF plan. This bill doesn't fix that day one, as I asked that we did it. It didn't come out the way I would prefer. But this bill sets up a commission to study the way TIFs are done and to come up with a more equitable way to finance the impact of TIFs that they have on our teachers and our students. Okay. Okay, we're good. Thanks very much, everybody. It's good to be with you.